Let the controversy begin. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris and welcome back to another video. My ranking of all 30 MCU movies with the release of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. My personal list from my least favorite MCU movie to my absolute favorite MCU movie. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And just remember, this is my personal list. I am not objectively ranking these movies, just my 2 cents on all of these movies in the franchise so far. Let's do this thing a little speed round edition because I make this after every MCU movie, so I'm not going to sit here and talk too much about every single one. Alright, so coming in dead last for me in 30th place is Thor: Love and Thunder. This movie's a complete miss, painfully unfunny, and so hard to rewatch. I rewatched it and I was like, I've had enough. This movie ages awfully. Number 29 for me is Thor: The Dark World. For the longest time, this was my least favorite MCU movie, but I can admire the Loki-Thor brotherhood relationship here, and it has some clever twists and turns, as opposed to Thor: Love and Thunder, which is just unwatchable. Number 28 for me is Captain Marvel. This movie has its standout moments, you know, Nick Fury, Goose, and there are some fun moments with Captain Marvel, but it's got a super forgettable villain. The movie's just pretty damn bland. Number 27 for me is The Incredible Hulk, a movie that doesn't even feel like it's a part of the MCU, and I rarely revisit this one, though I think Edward Norton does his best with what he's given, and there's a pretty cool fight scene. Number 26 for me is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, a movie that I love the directorial style of, and it has some great moments, especially when the Illuminati is introduced, only to be killed moments later. I don't love Wanda as a character, and I really can't stand what they do with her here in this movie again. Just all over the place, in my opinion. Number 25 for me, Ant-Man and the Wasp, a movie that's a lot of fun. It's basically one long chase sequence, and I think Paul Rudd's charisma in the role definitely carries it. Number 24 for me is going to be Eternals, a movie that I actually enjoy the more I kind of let it sit. The thing that I don't like about Eternals is that it's so grand and trying to introduce these groundbreaking and like world-moving ideas in one movie. Almost feels like it's doing too much for its own good, but I do admire the fact that it introduces some of the most likable and best characters in Phase 4 so far. Next for me at 23 is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, a movie that has slowly made its way up from the bottoms of this ranking because I'm all over the place with this one. I love the Guardians as a family. I think they're great characters. This movie has way too much going on, though. It's jumping from planet to planet early on. There's a ton of different villains, and I do like the twist and third act reveal, plus Yondu's sacrifice is very emotional. The movie also has a bop of a soundtrack, but I just don't love it as much as a lot of the other movies on this list. Number 22 on my list is going to be Iron Man 3. This is my least favorite Iron Man movie. We don't get a lot of Iron Man in action here. I get what they're trying to go for, but the result is a not really rewatchable movie, in my opinion, and the most forgettable of the Iron Man movies. Number 21 for me is Thor, a movie that I think is criminally underrated, and I can appreciate the grand scale of it. The first 30 minutes, you know, the battle with the Frost Giants and the whole Loki-Thor rivalry, really well done. It's a little over-the-top dramatic at times, which kind of makes it a little charming. And the whole fish out of water story, it's something we've seen before, but the movie is one of the OG Marvel movies, and I think it deserves a little bit more credit. Number 20 for me is going to be Iron Man 2, probably one of the most overhated MCU movies. By no means is it great. It has its fair share of issues. It's trying to set up the Avengers. It's trying to do so much so fast. It has one of the best Iron Man suit-up scenes in Monaco. We get the final act with War Machine and Iron Man back-to-back just destroying. It has multiple villains, again, can get a little clunky, but I have nostalgia for this movie. It's the first MCU movie I ever saw in theaters, holds a special place in my heart. Number 19 for me is the newly released Black Panther Wakanda Forever. By no means a bad movie. I just didn't love this one. It feels very middle-of-the-road MCU to me. It has its moments to shine, with Namor being one of the best Phase 4 villains without question. He's fully fleshed out. We've got Riri Williams introduced here, another scene stealer. Can't wait to see more of her soon. One of my main issues with this movie is the fact that it's 2 hours and 40 minutes and has a lot of pockets that really drag, that I felt myself dozing off. It also feels like no one takes command of this movie and there's like a true lead hero. There's so many small characters that have screen time. No one really takes the lead here, in my opinion. Not a bad movie by any means, but I do prefer Black Panther, which is my number 18 movie. I think the structure of this movie just flows a little bit better. It's a lot tighter. Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther is so iconic. Rest in peace. He crushes it in this movie. The dynamic between him and Killmonger going back and forth, and like the battle for the throne, is awesome to see. And again, the world building of Wakanda here is fantastic. So the first Black Panther still edges out the new one. At number 17 for me is the first Doctor Strange, another slept on MCU movie in my opinion, with some of the best visuals to this day, and a damn good origin story for Stephen Strange, especially after episode 4 of What If. I really like the way that it kind of plays, and I have a new appreciation for it. But number 16 for me, yet again, another MCU movie that I think is a little overhated, Avengers: Age of Ultron. This movie introduces Quicksilver and Wanda. I think Ultron's a really solid villain, and it's one of the few times in the MCU we get to see the Avengers as an actual team or family. We're halfway through the video, so be sure to hit that like button and comment down below, #MCU. Number 15 for me is Black Widow, the most underrated Phase 4 movie. I fully acknowledge and am fully aware of the fact that the villains in this movie are pretty garbage, but it is a very fun family adventure that introduces Yelena and Red Guardian. They have have an awesome father-daughter dynamic. We get the sisterhood between Nat and Yelena. It's really fun, rewatchable, and it has a bop of a soundtrack. I thoroughly enjoy Black Widow more than most people probably. Number 14 for me is Captain America: The First Avenger, an OG classic MCU movie. Listening to the score for this movie just sends chills down my spine. Very nostalgic for this movie, and it's great to see a young Bucky and Cap, a great World War II movie for the MCU. Number 13 for me, Spider-Man: Far From Home, another movie that I think gets a bad rap. Mysterio's a damn good villain. I get it's a whole Tony Stark screwed me story, but Jake Gyllenhaal is having so much fun in this role. I like seeing Peter try and navigate his relationship with MJ and his role as Spider-Man when he's on summer vacation. Just a fun summer watch that I think, again, gets a bad rap. Number 12 for me is Thor: Ragnarok. Taika completely changed Thor for the better here. The movie doesn't really age as well as I wish it did. The humor just doesn't hold up on more rewatches, but easily one of the funnest and most original MCU movies to date. Number 11 for me is Ant-Man. Another blast of an MCU movie. It's a heist MCU movie. Paul Rudd comes in and just steals the show here. He's got so much charisma. You gotta love him. Can't wait for Quantumania. We've now reached the top 10, and coming in at number 10 for me is Spider-Man: Homecoming. One of my favorite Spider-Man movies of all time. Vulture is a top 2 or 3 MCU villain for me. Michael Keaton plays that role so well. He's doing what he does for his family. Many call him the Walter White of the MCU, and I totally see that point of view. This movie is so much fun. It gets that high school coming of age feel down to a T. Number 9 is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, a badass movie and some of the best action in the MCU. Shang-Chi is a great, lovable new protagonist. I like the relationship he has with Katie here, and I love the lore of Ta Lo, the Ten Rings, and just the world building of this movie. Shout out Wen Wu, one of the better new MCU villains. Number 8, the OG Avengers movie that came out in 2012, the first epic MCU team up. I'll never forget this movie. I'll cherish it forever. People love to say, you know, this movie doesn't age well, it's just not the same. It still holds up in my opinion and will always be a banger. Number 7 for me is Captain America: The Winter Soldier, many people's top MCU movie, and I still adore this movie despite the fact that it's not in my top 5. It's highly stylized MCU action. The Russo brothers crushed it here. We get introduced to Falcon, we've got Nat and Steve doing their thing, and then of course Bucky Barnes as the villain of this movie. Easily some of the best action in the MCU, and it's so well paced. This movie is highly rewatchable. Coming in at number 6 for me, Guardians of the Galaxy, absolute blast from the MCU, and without question it has the best soundtrack in the MCU. I think most people love this movie. I'm so incredibly excited for the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, and of course Guardians 3 that comes out next year. We've now approached the top 5. If you guys have made it this far, be sure to hit that like button and comment down below, hashtag Wakanda Forever. My number 5 in the MCU right now is Spider-Man: No Way Home. I will never forget seeing this movie on opening night and just being overcome with joy as we saw all 3 Spider-Man on screen together. Not only was this movie a huge nostalgia trip, but I think it was really effective from start to finish in showing the Spider-Man not just showing up to have them swing together, but having a crucial role in Peter Parker's arc. He loses Aunt May along the way. He's the bottom of the barrel. He's lost pretty much everything in his life, but he has to remember these are the sacrifices you have to make to be Spider-Man. It's a beautiful movie. A lot of people like to rag on it as it ages. I will admit the first hour or so is harder to rewatch just because I'm so giddy waiting for Toby Andrews to show up, but overall, damn good movie. And to this day, it's still my favorite Spider-Man movie. Number 4 for me is the original Iron Man, the one that started it all for the MCU. Every time I talk about this movie, I tell the story of how I watched it pretty much every day for like 2 weeks straight when I came home from school in the 4th grade. I know this movie like the back of my hand. It's a perfect way to start the universe. Iron Man's my favorite character in the MCU, and he always will be, and this is a perfect origin story. My number 3 favorite MCU movie is Captain America: Civil War. This movie portrays conflict better than any in the MCU. I'm constantly flip-flopping sides. Heroes are facing off against each other. Emotions are at an all-time high. It's really well acted. The score slaps. We've got the airport battle sequence, the final fight between Bucky, Cap, and Tony. It's enthralling. It is a masterful movie in the MCU. My runner-up is Avengers Endgame, the epic conclusion to the Infinity Saga, and honestly, the epic conclusion to the MCU, because everything else is sort of like MCU bonus phases. This is the true ending to the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I grew up watching and loving, and it is so perfect. I couldn't think of a better way for them to tie a bow on this franchise. We've got the fan service, the time travel in the middle, the opening aftermath of Infinity War, and the final battle, which is so damn epic. I could watch that final battle on a loop. It is a perfect closure to the MCU, but my number 1 favorite MCU movie is Avengers Infinity War. I could watch this movie pretty much any day of the week. It set up all of the great payoff we got in Avengers Endgame. The villain wins. It's shocking. So many of our favorite characters are spread out across different planets, and the Russo brothers handle it so well. You've got epic, crowd-pleasing moments like Thor on Wakanda, the Battle of Titan, just so much to love in this movie. It is the best MCU movie. But that's just my personal ranking of all 30 MCU movies. Definitely let me know yours in the comments down below, and be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified for all my future videos, reaction videos, and all that good stuff. And again, where do you place Wakanda Forever? It just came out in theaters, so let me know down below. Stay tuned for more MCU videos coming very soon. My buddy Trevor from Film Geeks, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.